We've all heard it before: when you meet the right person, everything will fall into place. But what happens when you find that supposedly perfect person, and your life doesn't magically transform? When the arguments still happen, the insecurities persist, and you wake up some mornings wondering if something is wrong with the relationship, or worse, with you. Dears, let me give you this one liberating truth, and that's: finding that one person to complete you is a complete myth. No one person can complete you, because you were never incomplete to begin with. There's a big difference between looking for someone to fill your empty spaces versus finding someone who will stand beside you, whole person to whole person, creating something greater than either of you can do or be alone. Dear sweet ones, this is the quiet, beautiful reality of completely you and completely them, shared love, and that's, this 100% commitment on both partners' parts just might be the healthiest relationship, the healthiest romance of all. Now let's begin. From fairy tales to Hollywood blockbusters, we're surrounded by stories that paint relationships as the ultimate solution to life's problems. "You complete me" isn't just a memorable line from a great movie, it's become a cultural blueprint for how we think love should work. Think about the messages we absorb every day. Soulmates destined to find each other, two halves becoming a whole, the missing piece that makes everything make sense. These narratives aren't just harmless entertainment, they shape our expectations in huge and profound ways. How? Because through them we learn to search for someone who fills our perceived gaps, compensates for our believed weaknesses, and somehow magically addresses our deepest insecurities while solving all of our problems. Dears, of course it isn't hard to understand why this idea is so appealing. Who wouldn't want to believe that the right relationship could heal all our wounds and make us feel whole? There's comfort in thinking that our perceived incompleteness isn't our responsibility alone, but that there's that special someone out there who will come along and fix what feels broken inside. But dear sisters, here's the reality check. We find someone who seems perfect, who checks all the boxes, and still, we wake up with the same anxieties. The arguments happen. The doubts creep in. The emptiness returns. And suddenly, we're wondering what went wrong, or worse yet, what did I do wrong? Like my friend Ellie once said, "I thought finding my husband would solve my confidence issues. Instead, I just became dependent on his validation. And when he couldn't provide constant reassurance, I felt even worse than before." Sisters, this is where the completion mindset reveals its fundamental flaw, and that's, it creates codependency. When we believe someone else is responsible for our happiness and our wholeness, we place an impossible burden on them. No partner can, or should, be expected to fill all of our emotional needs, heal all our past hurts, or be the singular source of our total happiness. Yet sadly for many women, this realization, this truth, comes after years of frustration. They've built their identity around being someone's partner, only to find themselves lost when the relationship faces challenges, as all relationships do, or they're totally lost if the relationship ends. Their whole sense of self had become so entangled with the relationship that they no longer knew who they were outside of it. My friend Monica said this so clearly when she told me, "After my divorce, I didn't just lose a husband, I lost my whole identity. I had to rebuild myself from scratch because I'd never figured out who I was, apart from being Michael's wife. That's when I realized how risky it is to let someone else complete you." So dear ones, let me offer this. What if we approached relationships not as a search for our missing half, but as an opportunity for two whole people to create something extraordinary together? This is the essence of a complementary relationship. Rather than seeking someone to compensate for perceived inadequacies, complementary partners recognize and value their own wholeness first. Can't you see, dears, it's only from a foundation of you recognizing you're complete and whole as you are that you can then appreciate what you each bring to the relationship without desperate need or unhealthy dependence on your part. Think of it like two trees growing side by side. They don't complete each other. Each tree has its own root system, its own strength and stability. But together, their branches create a canopy that's more spacious and beautiful than either could create alone. Dears, it's in the truly complementary relationships where different strengths aren't viewed as deficiencies but as experiences to be shared. When one partner is naturally organized and the other is spontaneous, they don't look to fix each other's perceived shortcomings, they relish and celebrate the bringing together of different and valuable perspectives that enhance their life together. My friend Jazz shared this wonderful realization, and that's, the hardest part was breaking old patterns. I had to get really honest about how I was using relationships to avoid dealing with my own stuff. Learning to want a partner, rather than need one, completely changed how I approach dating. The transition for her began with self-awareness, her recognizing the unhealthy patterns she'd developed and the unreasonable expectations she was placing on her relationship partners. It required honest reflection, on her part, concerning what she'd been seeking from a partner and why. Dears, for many women, this journey involves learning to distinguish between healthy interdependence and unhealthy dependence. It's about understanding that, I want you in my life comes from a very different place than, I need you, in order to feel okay about myself. See the difference? Setting boundaries becomes essential in this process. Complementary relationships thrive on respecting each person's individuality, their separate interests, friendships, goals, and personal time. These boundaries aren't walls that divide you, but clear markers that honor each person's individual wholeness. Like my friend Elena shared, saying, "My partner and I have our own lives alongside our shared one. I never realized how much healthier it feels to choose to be with someone, rather than feeling like I can't function without them." Sisters, the wonderful thing about complementary relationships is that it shifts the focus from what each person can get to what they can create together. Growth becomes a shared journey, rather than a dependent one, with each partner evolving individually, while also building something meaningful together. Dears, let me end with this, and that's, one of the most liberating truths about complementary relationships is that they free us from the pressure of having to be perfect. Sisters, when we abandon the myth that the right person will make everything click into place, we can embrace the beautiful, messy reality of what relationships actually are, ongoing journeys of growth and discovery, with someone you love. This perspective shift allows us to see difficulties not as signs of failure, but as opportunities for deepening connection. Arguments become chances to understand each other better. Differences become invitations to expand our perspectives. Disappointments become catalysts for honest conversation and renewed commitment. My 62-year-old friend Sophie put it beautifully, saying, "After 40 years together, my husband and I have watched each other evolve in ways we never could have predicted. The beauty isn't that we completed each other once and for all, it's that we've given each other space to keep becoming more fully ourselves." In the end, perhaps the most powerful shift isn't from being incomplete, and thus searching for completion, but perhaps what's more powerful is coming to the realization that the wholeness we've been looking for in another person was already inside us, all along. Then, dear ones, the question changes from who will complete me, to what can we create together, from our shared space of wholeness? And in that question lies the possibility of relationships that don't just satisfy, but they transform, not by filling what's missing, but by celebrating what's already there. Keep your hearts open, your communication clear, and your standards high. Until next time.